For this game, I decided to go with 4 functions. These are the static screens, the in-game UI, in-game music, and musical cues. For the for the static screen, I decided to go with this MIDI clip. This clip will be set to loop in the main menu. It has that background, so it creates a bit of suspense since the game will be a stealth game. The player has to keep running around without being detected. Therefore, there's suspense since the player has to not make any noise. It, this also is emphasized by the slow pace of the other instruments. For the background, I decided to go with this one. That will basically keep on going the same. This is the background music for the main game. At first it starts off a bit slow, then at certain positions there are sounds to emphasize the suspense, and when it comes to this part it becomes a bit more fast-paced, since the player at that point will have progressed more in the game and more suspense will be included since he has to meet the enemies. This is also included in the main part of the game. This is triggered when the enemy is detected, when the player is detected by the enemy, or when the player triggers an alarm. As you can see, the pace is much faster than the normal background music. That is to demonstrate the increased tension since he has been detected. The player at this state must run away from the enemies and try and lose their scent. Then there's the game UI. This will be played when the player presses escape and pauses the menu. A UI will pop up in the screen and this music will play. As you can see, the game UI is also slow paced. This is to show that when the player presses the escape button and temporarily pauses the game, the player can temporarily rest so that it simulates that it is not hectic anymore. When the player resumes the game, it resumes with the normal background music, or if he was detected by the enemies, the detected music would play. Last, there's the game over. It is a small MIDI clip. It is small because the transition between the death of the enemy and the restart of the level is very small, so there isn't a lot of time to put longer music, and also there will be another sound effect playing on it when the player dies. This is the MIDI clip I created for the main menu. It is the background music for it. To start off, it has 3 small tracks made of chimes and bow, and one glass cave mirror. The glass cave mirror is the background effect that is accompanied with the pitch. The pitch is set to minus, so it has that deeper sound. Since the place where the game takes place is a bit enclosed and there's suspense, there's silence, so there's the deeper sound to increase the tension. Then there is the random for the last 2 notes for the chimes. And this adds the 50% chance that each note will be played a bit different tone, so that since the music will be played for a long time maybe in the menu and has to be looped, there will be a bit of randomness, so it will not always be the same. And then there's the velocity, which is also set to random. For the first 2 it will sound like this. For the VST, it has been hooked up to the Game Over MIDI clip. It has the preset pad shimmer in phase. Apart from that, I use the compressor to limit the output, and together with the reverb and the EQ filter, with this I did a bit of echo, and by limiting the frequencies and limiting the echo, I created a bit of static interference in the background. This is since the game is a simulation, when the player dies, it shows that the simulation has been terminated, therefore there's static to show that it has failed and it will be starting again. As you can see, there's a bit of static in the background. After finishing the music clips for the music was exported from the Ableton and imported into the Fmod Studio. For the music section, we have the main menu for the static screens, then the background where all the music for the background is located. Here we made use of different parameters so that each transition can be made in-game. First, the player will start with the background and start playing. If when the player hits any laser or is detected by the enemy, the background from 1 will turn to 0 and the detected will turn to 1, which will make the sound go to marker A and start the detected music. If by any chance the player dies while detected, the detected will come to 0 and the game over will go to 1, which will then turn it to marker C. This will play the game over music and stop here. Then the player is prompted to press a button to go to the main menu. There are other options. For example, if the player presses escape and wants to stop the game temporarily, any of these will set to 0 and the game UI will go to 1, so that the player will go to mark D and in-game UI will play. After the player presses resume on the in-game UI, this will go to 0, and depending on which action the player was doing before, if he was simply sneaking around, it will return to the background music. If he was detected by the enemy, it will return to the detected. Once the player dies from here, it will go to the main menu. With this will loop over and over again, and when the player presses the play button, it will then transition back to the background and start this section all over again. To demonstrate a bit how this works, we can play. This is when the player is detected by the enemy. That is when the player loses the scent of the enemy, it returns to the background music. Then from the background music, the player decides to pause the game, it will turn to the game UI. Which then in turn will return to the background or the detected music. Apart from the music section, now we also have the sound section, the sound samples. Here we have all the sound samples that were used in the game. First we have the opening of the doors in the game. Then we have the end game.
Simulation restarting.
That is played when the player has died and the simulation is restarting and goes back to the main menu. This plays when the player picks up the key that is needed to win. This also has a second purpose. It's played as a location-aware audio when the player starts the game. It is there to notify the player that the simulation has started and can start playing the game. There is also the player attract. The player has the option to press the X key and try to lure the enemies to a specific location so that he can bypass them.
Hey!
Then we have the footsteps in the game. That will play on a loop when the player is walking. Then there's the switch sound that will play when the player deactivates any lasers that is needed to pass through. Then we have the shooting of the enemy. There's another enemy shoot that is going to be used later for the random sound clips. For the EQ filter, it was used for the switch deactivation. There are three EQ filters that have been used here: the low shelf, the high, and the bell filter here. As you can see, there is at the very beginning of the sound, at the very beginning, there is the only high frequency note, but later on, the low frequencies were boosted to create the effect that the laser is being deactivated. The high frequency in the beginning is to show that the button has been pressed. Next is the parallel compression. For this, the parallel compression makes use of two signals, one that is lightly compressed and the other that is heavily compressed. But both of the signals must originate from the same type. This is used to bring up the soft sounds that reduce dynamic range. For this example, I use the glue compressor on the endgame. The threshold is the level at which the compression will start. The attack is how long it takes for the maximum compression to be reached. For this situation, it is set to 3 milliseconds. The release is measured in seconds. For the situation, it is 1.2 seconds. This means that once the signal falls under the set threshold, it will take 1.2 seconds for it to stop. Then there is the ratio. It is the ratio between the input and the output level. The higher the ratio, the more sharper it is. Then there is the makeup. The makeup is the amount of gain that is after the compression has done its job. Now for the audio parameters, we have the background. As shown before, there's a parameter for each situation that might happen. This will make it easier for the transition to happen in-game while playing between the soundtracks. This is done by doing a parameter for each of the situation, and it is set to 1 or 0 if the situation is triggered or not. For the location aware, it is done in the beginning of the game. When the player starts moving, it plays a little clip that has been mentioned before, that will show that the game has started. As you can see, the sound has been played. For the random sound clips, we have the enemy shots. There are two sound clips here that will play at random each time the enemy is shooting. Then we have the loops. One is used for the main menu. It will keep looping until the player presses the button. There are also a loop in the game UI and the background and detected music. For the sample pitch, we have where is it? For the item pickup, the pitch was altered so that the sound would be more suitable for the situation, and also the pitch was used in the beginning of in the main menu for the glass cave mirror. The pitch was set to minus so that it will have more deep sound. For the export of the sounds, we have this folder, the built-in exports. We have both the music and the sample sounds folders. The music has the background, detected, game over, game UI, and main menu sounds, while the samples has the attract attention, door open, end game, enemy shoot, both of them, for the random effect, the footsteps, item pickup, and switch. We will now test the game.
Hey! Hey! Hey!
Simulation restarting.
When the player dies, he can return to the main menu. From here, he can start again.
Simulation restarting.
think that the parameters and the transitions had the best benefit in the game. It is a very useful tool that by manipulating some parameters it is possible to change the music for the situation at hand. However, there's still some downside to it, since when the parameter is changed, it can only start back from the marker, so it does not transition smoothly from one to another, but sometimes just cuts off the music. Apart from that, the random for the enemy shots was also very useful, so there's a random element in the game. Not only the same sounds are always played, which makes it in sense more realistic. This could also have been used for the voice of the player, maybe changing the pitch to simulate a bit of change in the voice. And lastly, the location aware audio for the item pickup. I think this could have been maybe put to better use for maybe when the player finishes the game and victory sounds. And but most of all, I think the best benefit to the game was the game parameters.